Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Study Various Majors in the United States series. Today, with Eli, we'll focus on study political science in the United States. My name is Hani, and I'm the EducationUSA advisor in the Fulbright Commission in the Czech Republic. And Eli, my special guest, is an English teaching assistant and currently a Fulbright grantee in Slovakia. Hi, Eli. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'll go ahead and introduce myself as well.
Hmm.
So I graduated from the University of Louisville, which is in Louisville, Kentucky, in May 2022. I majored in political science, and I had an individualized major, which you can learn about in a different video. But I also had a ton of minors. You can read them there. After graduation, I worked for an educational nonprofit before coming to Slovakia as a Fulbright grantee. And once I return back to the United States, I will be going to Harvard Law School starting in August 2024. So very excited to continue my education as well in the US once I get back.
That's really cool. It's actually really cool knowing that a stepping stone to a law school can be political science, because many students focus on pre-law, but you can go through political science and individualized major and then apply to Harvard Law School. Wow.
Yes.
Cool.
I would even take that a step further and say, in the US especially, like as long as you're taking a major that is going to improve your writing and reading and critical thinking skills, law schools will take anyone from anywhere. So yes, I use political science and individualized major to get to law school. I know people who have taken art, any other kind of major, and still made it into law school. So do not limit yourself. If law school is where you want to go and you're not interested in pre-law, you'll have 3 years of law school to learn about the law. So don't worry about that.
Cool, thank you.
All right. Yeah, so to talk about political science, it is a social science degree. So, civics, history, that kind of thing. And it focuses very specifically on political behavior. So why do people vote a certain way, maybe is an example of political behavior. Why do certain people organize around topics, right? It focuses on government, so government structure, how it works, how it operates, how to make it better, and then public policy. So how passing laws and passing organizations in these budgets actually impact the world in a very tangible way. So there's a lot of things that go into that. There's also a lot of different subsections of political science. So if you're going into a political science major, expect to see a lot of these different kind of what I call tracks. They were called tracks at my university, but they're also different subject areas within this. So at many colleges in the US, you'll see American politics classes. So might not be the most interesting for you, but other probably more interesting things are comparative politics, public policy, international relations, and then there's a ton of more. I'm really going to focus on the 3 that are not American politics because those are the 3 that I'm most used to and that you'll see most commonly in political science majors on college campuses. So for public policy, this is what I really call applied politics. So, the actual impact that policies have on the world. Of course, when you're learning about public policy, the first thing you're going to learn is how to actually make it. What makes a good public policy? How clear can it be? What organizations do you have to go through to make public policy, right? Because there's so many different ways for that to actually be a thing. So you'll also focus a lot on political theory, political economics. This is really a very, broad general scope of things, but it's all about really tangible outcomes. So procedures of policymaking also include elections. So if you're interested in elections, public policy might be the way to go. This is also a good place for maybe more quantitative research and qualitative research on political science. This is probably the way you want to go as well if you're interested in doing polls, interested in working on campaigns. Essentially anything where it's having like an out there tangible impact on the world through politics can be covered by public policy. So, that includes laws as well. This is really pretty much the most general, I would say, of all the categories. Then you have comparative politics, which the name kind of shows you what it's going to be. And this is going to compare the different systems of governments of various countries. So typically it's an international kind of scope, and you're really looking for maybe trends over history. So you may be taking a historical lens of, this is how governments have changed over time. And you're also going to be looking for maybe what has worked, what hasn't worked, and how that can be applied to today's world. So comparative politics, it is an international scope, but you're not really looking at interactions. Interactions is covered by a different thing. Comparative politics is really about getting down to understanding government systems, what makes up certain government systems, and then comparing those to each other.
Cool.
Then the last kind of field is international relations. So international relations really focuses on the relationships between sovereign states and supranational organizations. So the United Nations, the EU, NATO, all those kind of things. This one is the one that I actually took on, so I'll talk more about it here in a little bit. But the idea, of course, here is if you study history and you study historical trends and how different states interact, it's maybe potentially easier to predict what will happen in the future or to learn something about how to make the world better within interactions between different people. So those are in broad strokes the three kind of main areas. So I would say, if you're interested in research, if you're interested in tangible outcomes at the local level or maybe the national level within your specific country, public policy would be the way to go. If you're interested in how states interact with one another, international relations, definitely the way to go. And if you're interested in something maybe a little bit in between, comparative politics is the way to go.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'll pause here before I go into my own experience to talk about some of the schools in the US that are best known for this kind of study. So I would say all of the Ivy Leagues, as you all know them, are very high up in the rankings whenever it comes to political science. But the specific ones that really take home the cake whenever it comes to public policy and comparative politics would be Harvard, Princeton, and Stanford University. These universities also have very strong master's programs or master's schools that focus directly on public policy. So the example I can give is Harvard has the Kennedy School that is a master's degree or a PhD kind of level study that will directly teach you how to become a public policy master, someone who can take back their ideas to their home community and really impact that. So those are the three schools at the public policy level that really, really shine. Whenever it comes to comparative politics, Duke University does also kind of join in there, or applied politics, Duke University also joins in there. And then the other three schools that I have mentioned here, George Washington, Georgetown, and American University, those are three universities that are in Washington, D.C., so our nation's capital, that are also very well known for their political science regimen. I would say that in this regards, these schools are really well known for their opportunities as opposed to maybe like their school ranking. So whenever you ask a state or a student from the US that is maybe thinking about political science, these three will always be on their list because of the access that you have. So Washington, D.C. is one of the biggest hubs of public policy, and that makes a lot of sense because it is our nation's capital. And so by going to one of these three universities, right, the opportunities are endless. You could go work for a nonprofit that does public policy. You could join lobbying efforts that are trying to lobby the US government or even international governments, So I would say all of these, or almost every university is going to have a great kind of political science department. These seven really hit home whenever it comes to opportunities and also the structure of their classes. I will also say that when it comes to other universities that I haven't mentioned, and even these universities, they may be well known for one specific thing, or they may have a specialty, I guess. So, for example, at my university, the University of Louisville, we had all of the topics that I've mentioned. So public policy, American politics, international relations, and comparative. And we did all of them well, but we were known, at least within the state, to be more of an international relations focused school. Whereas the University of Kentucky might have been well known for more of a public policy type of school. So, again, both universities did all the things and they did it amazingly. But if you're doing your research and looking at some of these universities, maybe choosing which of these fields you're interested in and really honing in on maybe looking at the professors to see what their specialties are can really help you narrow down your choices even further.
Well, perfect. Thank you.
So talking about kind of my experience within political science, I mentioned that I focused on international relations. So within my university, I chose a track. So you go to political science, you have the general kind of education of the political science department. And then for me, or for U of L, we choose a very specific track to continue our studies in. So I would say about half of our classes were, general, or not half. I would say about a quarter of our classes were general, kind of just major classes. And then the rest of them were our choice, but within a certain field. So I wanted to do international human rights law whenever I graduated, and I plan to still do that whenever I go to law school, which means the international affairs track really, really worked well for me because I can get that kind of law side of things and I can get the international focus as well. So some key classes to highlight for me were the internationals law kind of seminar that I took. That I took part in, and this was a high-level advanced seminar where we really dove into all of the international law kind of field of knowledge at the moment, right? Because law is consistently growing, consistently becoming more and more defined, and so that was a general survey of all of it. Then another very interesting seminar that I was able to take because of this major was international negotiation. As a lawyer, being a good negotiator is always a massive skill. And so international negotiation taught you how to really it taught you a lot of negotiation tactics, and then we were able to put it into practice using simulations. So there's a series of international negotiation simulations developed by Harvard that my professor graduated from and actually helped create. And so we were able to actually dive into these and simulate these kind of massive world events within our class and be able to learn a lot through that class on how to be a good negotiator and how to, walk away from the table win-win, as opposed to how a lot of people see international affairs as, win-lose or what have you. The last class that I want to highlight that I felt really thought was interesting is qualitative research, which, as the name implies, doesn't necessarily sound like it would be interesting. But this was a graduate level course that I was able to take that focused a lot on what qualitative research is, how to do it, but it did it through, the lens of actually putting it into practice as opposed to just learning, which means you got to really tailor it to what your interest was. So I focused a lot on, the different regions that I was interested in, and I was able to do qualitative research specifically on those political systems within international relations, and I was able to, develop a lot of skills in that regards, and also tailor those to my interests. The real reason I highlight these is that, you can get a very strong political science education that is directly tailored to your needs almost anywhere you go. The multitude of classes that you have on offer means that you can specialize not only within a track like I did for global politics and international affairs, but even within a region, right? So I focus very heavily on the Middle East, Central Europe, and then Africa or Sub-Saharan Africa. And so those three kind of focuses, while I'm obviously not an expert, not PhD, not graduate level, being able to come away with a very strong focus on those helped me further define, maybe what I want to do in the future.
Did you have to take on another language?
For my university, another language was required for our gen ed requirements. So I guess pre-major stuff. But it did not, I was not forced to be fluent, which means I'm not the best at languages, but I am trying to get better at those. So no, I did take language courses, but I was not forced to take on as a minor or anything like that.
All right. Good. Thank you.
No worries. So continuing on with my experience, kind of focusing on internships and extracurriculars, I was able to do a lot of things at my time at U of L because of the political science department. So focusing on internships, I was really able to get connected to the local community through Kentucky Refugee Ministries, which works with international affairs because international law around refugee status and also assimilation within communities is a very strong topic, of course. And so being able to work directly with this nonprofit, get some law knowledge, but also get some practical knowledge of helping people, get acclimated to a new climate and a new location was really, really valuable through this. I also got to work at a law firm called Lambda Legal, which is a civil rights law firm in New York. And this was a really good way for me to get some more skills. I focused primarily on fundraising, so add to my skill regimen, but also to gain more knowledge about civil rights and politics in the law realm. And then finally, one of the most impactful things that I was able to do because of a political science major was apply to the United States Department of State. So this is what I mean by the three schools that I mentioned that are in Washington, D.C. being incredibly useful for their opportunities is that I was in Louisville, so applying to the Department of State, I could definitely do, but it would have been difficult had not been for COVID, right, where I could be a little bit remote. However, had I gone to a school in Washington, D.C., right, it could have been my day job, and then I could take night classes, right, because you have such a close access to so many organizations. So within this, I really focused on, the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor, which does quite a lot of things. And my specific kind of job was focused on a very specific implementation of a law. So that really goes into the public policy realm of things, as I mentioned, of people passing laws and that tangible effect on the world. But it also worked with international affairs because of the kind of national or international scope of the Department of State. So it was really a melding between public policy and international relations, which was very cool. Then on my college campus, there are a lot of extracurriculars that people with political science majors or interests can get involved in. So I was specifically involved in the Student Government Association, which focuses on, policy making and events on the college campus. So we tried to do a lot with, resolutions that called upon the university to do things that the students needed. We also had a large budget for us to kind of, use to make the school a better place, to purchase things that students need, to make renovations that students need, to put on events that will bring students together. So this was really helpful with a political science degree because it was part policy work, but also part public relations. I also specifically worked with a youth and government nonprofit in Kentucky, so teaching civics to high school students.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so that was very, very helpful for the general education that I got from my political science degree, because we simulated the United Nations, but we also simulated state government. So again, that kind of melding of public policy with the international affairs kind of coming together there. Some other extracurriculars that I did not necessarily take part in, but you can, involved Model United Nations, so at the college level, as well as, different political groups have groups on campuses to do different kinds of work. So registering people to vote, there was countless organizations that did that. As well as, political parties having things on campus as well. So there's quite a few different options that your university will talk about. I am going to mention kind of two more things my university did that was specifically for people that were part of the political science department, as a way to show you the opportunities that you might be able to take advantage of if you go to a school outside of Washington, D.C. A lot of times they will directly have programs that will allow you to work within certain fields or within certain, organizations. So my university had two internship programs at the city level and at the state level. So this is the beautiful Kentucky State Capitol, a little bit of a grainy image, but the reason I throw this on here is because at my university, there was an internship program that was you were only allowed to apply or do it through the political science department. So you had to be a political science major. So at the city level, you got to work directly with the city council, which is kind of like that local legislative body, and you got to directly work with a city council member on policy making, legislative assistant, that kind of thing. And we also had a state version. So the Frankfurt internship program was a program, again, only for political science majors, where people were able to go to our state capitol and work directly with our state legislators. So passing policies, writing policies, doing public relations, and that kind of thing. So most political science departments will have a way for you to get directly involved in the politics of whatever region you're in. And we'll also connect you to nonprofits. If you're not necessarily interested in American politics, you can get involved in other kind of politically minded nonprofits as well.
Mhm,
The second thing I will mention is something that was at my university called Ford Hall Goes to Washington.
mhm,
So this was another kind of internship program that was funded through the science department.
mhm,
And this actually sent students directly to Washington, D.C. in order to work in various political organizations. So it could be, a government department like the Department of State. It could be a nonprofit. It could be a national organization that brings people of maybe like a certain profession together. There are
mhm,
so many options, so many nonprofits. But even though my university was not in Washington D.C. and was not necessarily considered a hotspot for some of these political locations, they
uh-huh,
still most of these departments still blow you away with the opportunities that you can have in order to put your knowledge into practice. So
mhm,
I throw these two things on here to show you some of the other opportunities that I could have had access to, but also to kind of assuage fears of, I might be interested in politics, but I don't want to go to DC. I don't want to go to New York. I want to go to a smaller college. You'll still have those opportunities in spades, even if you aren't in a hotspot of a place like that.
That's really cool. Yeah. So thank you for the encouragement. That sounds amazing. So
Yeah.
I really like that you talked about the Model UN, because I do have high school students who are like, so what can we do now, throughout high school? So guys, you can definitely participate in that exists in Slovakia, in the Czech Republic. So you mentioned that it worked, it helped, or Eli also was a part of it. So you can definitely mention that in your application to kind of boost it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Any organization that you're a part of that does like conferences or things like that can
Mhm.
absolutely be used to strengthen your application. Yes, I did it as a high school student. Then I continued to help volunteer and work with them. So absolutely.
Cool. Mhm.
Okay, finally, kind of we mentioned this at the top of the recording as well, but some opportunities for post graduation after political science. Honestly, it is kind of endless. Political science is really a great major because it
Mhm.
teaches you how to read and critically think about what you're reading,
Mhm.
to write and make a very strong argument,
Mhm.
and also, how to relate to other people in a way that is like tangible and actionable afterwards.
Mhm.
So really, any job that requires those skills, you are well equipped for.
Mhm.
I have listed kind of a few things that most political science majors will go into eventually.
Mhm.
Law is at the top because political science is very much a lawyer's kind of major, right? If you want to go into law eventually, political science can be a great stepping stone,
Mhm.
because a lot of the classes focus on law, right? There's a lot of incorporation of that, and that is because politics is, the study of law, right? It's everything to do with politics has stuff to do with laws as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
Public service, so going into government in any kind of like way, can be a very nice stepping stone for political science majors. So this could mean on the actual government side of like working for a legislative member within the state or the national level, but it can also mean like different like cabinet organizations, right? So the Department of State, the Department of Homeland Security, all these places, any kind of like civil service job you can think of is great for political science majors.
Mhm.
Um, then diplomacy, right? If you're focusing on international relations, diplomacy would be a great next step because hopefully you've gained enough knowledge about how countries work together to be able to put that into action.
Mhm.
Political campaigns, right? Uh, Running for office is a very big part of politics.
Mhm.
And so, political science majors can help on the legislative side of things of, like, what are you going to promise if you're on a political campaign? But also, as I mentioned, voter registration, getting people out to vote, encouraging people to support candidates, all those kind of things.
Mhm.
Um, Journalism is also a very big opportunity post graduation, right? Political science, especially in the public policy field of things, does give you a very good kind of overview of worldview and how things work together.
Mhm.
Because one thing you'll learn coming from a political science major is that everything is political, even if you don't think it is.
Uh-huh.
So journalism, how you craft a message, political, journalism as well, how you cover things, what you even choose to cover. All these things can come back to political science in some way,
Mhm.
right? Even what people are interested in reading about. Um,
True.
and
Yeah.
the final kind of very, yeah, thank you. The very broad kind of final opportunity that you have is nonprofits. non-governmental organizations. Political science can teach you how to think creatively, because many of our best solutions to problems at the policy level and even at the international level have been creative, right? They've been novel, they've been new. So getting that kind of like perspective and realizing that means that going into the non-governmental organization sphere or the nonprofit sphere, you'll be prepared to come up with those solutions, or put those into practice. So I have seen political science majors go do any number of things, simply because like it gives you perspective on the world, and it gives you the skills that you need to use that perspective in a very tangible way. So those are the opportunities that I've kind of narrowed down. Again, you could really do anything, but I feel like that's true for so many different majors, that you can take what you've learned and really put it into practice in new ways in any kind of career.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for everything, Eli, honestly. And you guys, if you're thinking about political science, or if you're thinking about applying to University of Louisville in Kentucky, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you with Eli, and he can definitely ask questions and ask for a proofreading of your essay, because as you can see, there are plenty of experience, and not to be biased, but apparently the University of Louisville is amazing and provides amazing opportunities. So if you would like to connect with Eli, please let me know via email or social media, and I'm happy to connect you with our ETA in Slovakia. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.